Welcome back to Grit Gym. Today we're making sense of 3 meals a day versus eating every 2 to 4 hours versus fasting. And before we get into that, if you're interested in learning more about what will work specific to you, go to gritgym.com/SS. Stands for strategy session. You get your own free one there. This meeting is going to last about 20 to 30 minutes. We can do this over the phone, or we can do it in person if you're local, and we can get very clear on what's best for you. And really, the story that I'm going to tell out of what this presentation came from was a strategy session that I did a couple weeks ago, and it was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago today, somebody came in for a strategy session. This is a young, middle-aged female. Classic endomorph. Endomorph means that you're going to respond very poorly to the Western style diet. Okay, you're probably going to put on muscle mass very easy, but also put on fat really easy. So you're the opposite of a hard gainer. And when she came in, she's really frustrated, didn't know what to do, had gone on through every diet that she could find. And the thing with diets is the average female in the United States does 8 different diets per year. Now, if that isn't an alarming rate, then it's an alarming rate. So 8 different diets per year, I mean, they're perpetually on a different diet all the time. And most of these diets will work just enough to keep you reaching for more. Okay, they will work just a little bit, just enough to keep you reaching for more, right? The thing with the diet is that it's not a lifestyle, so you can't continue it for a long period of time. And because it's not a lifestyle, it's not sustainable. And if it's not sustainable, we're not going to get what we wanted to get out of it. So you have to make this nutrition thing sustainable. That's the biggest thing here. Okay, so the eating every 2 to 4 hours, fasting versus eating every 3 times a day, we're going to go through that in this video. And what this lady came in, she's very frustrated, she's trying to eat every 2 to 4 hours, and we're looking over, and she did a very good job with her food log, and the weight isn't budging for her. The weight has just stayed the same, and she's like, I've been really active, I've been doing my exercises, I've been getting stronger, doing all this stuff, but I'm frustrated because my weight isn't budging, and I'm probably putting on a little bit of muscle mass, maybe losing a little bit of fat, but what's going on? And it's like, okay, well, let's make this very clear. What have you been doing right now? She's been trying to eat every 2 to 4 hours and then fast until noon. Okay, so she's trying to fast until noon, then eat every 2 to 4 hours until 7 p.m. I think it was 7 p.m. or 8 p.m., somewhere in there. And then that's how she's trying to lose weight. Okay, so the thing with that is that, for one, statistically, females just do not get much benefit out of fasting. Males get a ton of benefit out of fasting. Females do not get much benefit out of fasting. For whatever reason, testosterone works a little bit better. Our testosterone goes up in a positive way for males. For females, it does not seem to have the same fat loss effect or the same muscle gain effect or the other hormonal benefits. So that's something that we're going to get into here in a little bit. So we're like, all right, well, let's scrap that. And let's start flexing this discipline muscle a little bit. What's wrong with breakfast? Now, is breakfast the most important meal of the day? Does it stoke your metabolism? I think that's a little silly. That's a little silly. On some level, for certain people, you would definitely want to use breakfast as the most important meal in the day because they need to get a win right off the bat. Now, with this girl, she needed to get a win. She needed to get a win right off the bat to make the rest of her day that much better. So we needed to be like, okay, well, it's one simple thing that you can do. Can you eat breakfast every single day? Can you eat 1 egg and 1 piece of bacon every single day? She's like, yeah, I can do that. Okay, that's a win. Okay, we got 1 win on the day. Now, what are you eating for lunch? Her lunch was a pretty big lunch, and then she had a cheat meal in between, and then she had a breakfast, then she had a dinner, and then she kind of had like an okay before her before she cut herself off from eating for the rest of the day. It's all right, well, there's a lot of calories being had in there. And what if we just did a small lunch and then a moderate-sized dinner? You're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, okay? Made it super simple. Like the title of this video is that sometimes the most simplistic form is the answer. And I don't put it up to me, I don't think I'm some wise guru that's just bang, man, everything that I touch is a solution for everybody. The solution's a little different for each person, typically. But with this person, she had, everything that she's tried hasn't worked. And so now we try this. And we're like, all right, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Do not eat anything in between those 3 meals. Okay? I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody, but it's working for her. okay? Just the other night, she got on the InBody scan down, I think she was down 8 pounds already, all right? The other thing that we did is we set a date, and then we worked the math back from that. Okay, so we did some things during the strategy session to make sure that she was successful in the future, and that's what you need to do too. If you're really serious about making your health a priority, and if you're over 25% body fat, then your health is in a dire straits. It's in a bad spot. Okay, I shouldn't use that word. I should look up the definition of dire straits and know what that means. But you are in a bad spot. If you're over 25% body fat, you need to lose some fat. Okay, that's not a healthy position to be in. So we want to get below 25% body fat so that we can do this thing. And if you're in that and you really want to, in that position, and you really want to take advantage of this, and you want to up your health, you want to make it a priority, sign up for a strategy session. It's free. Like, what are you out? You come out here, and we want to help you is the thing. We make it free because we want to help people. Hey, our goal is to help 1 billion people. Like, my goal in my life is to help 1 billion people. That's a lot. I don't know how I'm going to pull that off, but I want to help 1 billion people. You come out here for a strategy session, and I'll help you out as best I possibly can. Okay? Whatever it takes to help you out, I want to do that thing. All right, so let's get into this. The eating every 2 to 4 hours. Let's go fasting. And let's say 3 meals per day. Okay? What are the benefits of each one of these, and why did this stick around and become such why have these become kind of like the mainstays of the diet and nutrition world, and why have they taken off? What is the utility of each one? I'm going to say the weakest link is this one. No doubt about it, 2 to 4 hours is the weak link. For one, it's extremely difficult to if you have a life to maintain eating every 2 to 4 hours, okay? This originally was based on this research. It was actually very good research. It was they found that your metabolism spikes when you eat. Well, no shit. I spend more money on payday than I would on other days. But they found that your metabolism spikes. So they thought, okay, well, if your metabolism spikes when you eat, let's eat every 2 to 4 hours. Keep that thing stoked up. Now, with further research, what we found was your metabolism adjusts to the amount that you eat. So if your meal was this big, your metabolism spiked that much. If you ate this much, your metabolism spiked this much. So that's what happened with the every 2 to 4 hours thing. So this is for bodybuilders. It's for people who are trying to eat extra calories. Okay? They're hard gainers. They get full really fast, so they need to get some extra calories. This is not for fat loss. This is not for fat loss. Okay, what happened with the fasting thing? Okay, so fasting, the sales pitch is that and fasting is fantastic, by the way. I'm not putting it down. You eat from noon to 7, let's say, for intermittent fasting. You eat from noon to 7. That gives you a 7-hour window. And it's like, well, it's really hard to overeat your eat into a caloric surplus if you are if you're only eating for 7 hours. Now, that might be accurate. It might not be accurate depending on the person. If you're in a caloric surplus, you're going to gain weight, whether that's muscle or fat, is depending on your body type and on if you're lifting or not. And if you're fasting, you can still gain weight. Just because you fast doesn't mean that you're going to automatically lose weight. So from a hormones perspective and a lot of other reasons, fasting is absolutely phenomenal. Now, eating 3 meals per day. This is the thing with the time thing. Okay, you're probably going to eat for about 30 minutes per meal. You're going to eat 3 meals per day. That equals 90 minutes of eating each day. That's where the power of this is. 3 meals per day. 3 meals per day, 30 minutes per meal, 90 minutes total of eating. Okay, if we're using the same logic that we went into the fasting sales pitch with for the 3 meals per day, then we're going to end up eating less on the 3 meals per day. Okay, so that's where the power of that comes in. So with this also requires more discipline. Okay, with this we can be lazy. Okay, but some people do really, really well on the fasting stuff. I use fasting to a certain extent. Basically, all I do is I just take one day and I don't eat until 9 p.m. The rest of the days, I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Right? It makes it very, very simple. Our world, our society, everything is basically set up for 3 meals a day. Okay? You're not breaking, like, this one and this one are now the status quo. This is now the one that is breaking the status quo. If you want to break the status quo, you eat 3 meals per day. If you want to break the status quo, you exercise discipline. If you want to stick with the status quo, you get lazy, or you use something that's not appropriate for you. Okay? If you really want to use logic and you want to analyze this thing and you want to get down to the nitty-gritty details, this is probably going to be the one for you. I would say that probably over 80% of people are going to fit into this category, and the other 20% are going to fit into here, and then we're going to put some people of the bodybuilder crowd down into here. Now, some of this there's other details that go into this, but from a conceptual standpoint, this is basically how it goes. So who's going to respond best to this? Well, endomorphs are going to respond very well to fasting. Ectomorphs and mesomorphs are going to respond very well to 3 times a day. And really, I think this one is, from my perspective, I think this one is the most powerful. But if you're interested in learning about what's going to work best for you, come out to a strategy session. We'll get very clear. It's much easier in person than doing it over these videos, because you're just getting a perspective, and you're not getting a perspective. You're getting a perspective for a broad range of people instead of just for you. And we want to give you an individualistic approach because, for one, you deserve it, and that's how you're going to get the best progress. And some of that is because we can set up the best plan for you. So after you figure this out, okay, then we have to set up goals and we have to do the math. So just like we did with the video yesterday, okay, you have an end date, you have a start date, okay, do the math that you need to get to here. If you need to be down 30 pounds, okay, then you set the goal. Now we've got to figure out the halfway point, okay, so you would have to be down 15, then we need to figure out the quarter. You'd have to be down 7.5, and then you would do that back until you know what you need to be tomorrow. Okay, or a week from now. And I think you should probably do a week from now. That way it gives you some time so that you're not just looking at it budge, just like too little to actually get any action from it. But 3 meals per day, fasting, every 2 to 4 hours, bodybuilders. That is basically the only people that are gonna use the every 2 to 4 hours thing. And these are bodybuilders like professional bodybuilders. They don't have another job. Their job is to bodybuild. Okay, 3 meals per day, you got to flex your discipline muscle because you have to wake up an extra 15 minutes early to be able to cook your breakfast and eat it, right? And the interesting thing about this, one other thing here, you do not want a carbohydrate-rich breakfast, okay? You want to have fat and protein in your breakfast, okay? This is something that, there's quite a bit of science that has come out on this in the last 5 years, very, very interesting stuff. Cortisol is highest at 7 a.m., so if at 7 a.m. cortisol is highest, we actually don't want a ton of sugar going into our body. We want to drown that out, and we want to give our body a lot of protein and a lot of fat. So eggs and bacon is perfect thing first thing in the morning. We don't want a lot of carbohydrates going in at that time. Whereas your cortisol levels start to drop at about 7 p.m., so it's fine. You're better off having your carbohydrates later in the day. And at lunch, most of us are professionals at something. We need our minds. We need to be giving our minds nutrients. And I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't get used to feeling hungry, because if you want to lose fat, well, get over it. Hunger is a really good thing. You want to feel hungry sometimes. If you never felt hungry, you wouldn't be satisfied by your food. Nature did this amazing thing. It made our greatest pleasures our survival instincts. Like, it's awesome. But if you're hungry, you're probably doing something right in the fat loss category. And that's just something that takes getting used to. You got to get used to feeling hungry. The way that I use actually fasting for females, and I should answer this question earlier, the way that I use fasting is if I think that it's possible that there's just a lot of unconscious eating going on. If there's a lot of unconscious eating going on, we'll introduce fasting so that we just take a whole day where it's like, you're not going to eat today, so that people recognize how often they're putting food in their face. So if they're putting food in their face and they're like, oh man, I was supposed to fast today, it's like, that's a signal, like you're eating unconsciously a lot. If you're eating unconsciously a lot, then one, we're not getting the pleasure of our food, and we're going probably much more likely to go into a caloric surplus that we don't need to do. So 3 meals per day, fasting, eat every 2 to 4 hours. If you really want to make strides, get to the 3 meals per day thing. This is where the status quo is getting broke down. Fasting is absolutely fantastic for the people, but you got to use it in a way that works with you. And if you're interested in learning more about this stuff, go to gritgym.com/SS for a strategy session. It's free, 20 to 30 minutes. We'll get on the phone, or you'll come out here, and we'll figure out we'll make a plan and a strategy around how to get to where you want to go. But go to gritgym.com/SS, and let me know what you thought of this video. If you're on here later, you can click Team Replay. If you're on here right now, please put #TeamLive. Anyway, thanks for being here, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.